Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin is flashing a warning signal that usually only happens just before more downside price action. And while this is happening, we are also seeing a massive new pattern form for Ethereum, which I'll talk more about later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the daily Bitcoin chart, and obviously not much has happened on this chart over the last one day. We've still seen this break to the downside in the price action and in the RSI. But if you actually zoom further out on this daily Bitcoin chart, we can see that obviously this is not the first time this has happened so far this year. In fact, this is now the 5th time this has happened this year so far. And if you're going back to take a look at this first example that happened during April this year, where basically the RSI broke below this daily uptrend line of support, and as soon as we got that bearish signal right here in the daily Bitcoin RSI, that obviously sent the Bitcoin price lower. That was an early warning signal. And then we also saw this exact same signal right here during early June this year, just before the price went lower. So once again, this acted as another early warning signal. Looking at the third example, once again, the same thing, the RSI breaking below an uptrend line of support, acting as a warning signal for the price of Bitcoin. We saw this happen for a fourth time in a row, where the RSI broke below an uptrend line of support, acting as another warning signal for the price of Bitcoin. And once again, we're simply seeing this exact same signal with the RSI breaking below an uptrend line of support for the 5th time so far this year. And so technically speaking, based on everything that we have seen so far this year, the most likely scenario on the daily time frame based on this signal is a little bit more downside price action. And now obviously this signal doesn't necessarily tell us the exact size of that downside price action. For example, we could see a crash like this, or just more of a minor movement to the downside like this, for example. But either way, this is technically a bearish signal here on the daily time frame, as I also mentioned in my last couple of videos. But if you zoom into the shorter term, this right here is the 4-hour Bitcoin to US dollar chart, and just a few days ago, the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI entered into oversold territories, telling us that we have somewhat limited room to the downside, at least in the imminent short term. And since then, obviously, we've seen a slight reset in this RSI, with the price action having a very slight bullish relief, mostly choppy sideways price action over the last one day as expected. And now, considering the fact that the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI is still very close to oversold territories, it is likely that we continue to see this sort of price action right here for a little while longer, perhaps over the next one day. I would not be surprised if we continue to see a little bit more choppy sideways price action before potentially continuing this bearish trend later on, because essentially we need some time to help reset this 4-hour Bitcoin RSI, because if the RSI is too close to oversold territories, then obviously we have limited room to the downside, technically speaking. And in terms of support and resistance levels, we do have some short-term support at around 16.7k to 16.6k approximately, and anything below 16.6k, if we see this next leg to the downside, then I would expect some support right here at around 16.1 to 16.2k. And as for resistance, we do have a bit of short-term resistance right here at around 16.9k, based on the fact that that was previous support, which should now be acting as new resistance. And above 16.9k, then I would expect some further resistance up towards around 17.3k to 17.4k. And once again, technically speaking, this short-term trend is a bearish trend. We've already formed lower lows, but like I said in my last video, just in the imminent short term, perhaps over the next day or so, we're likely due to see a bit of a pause from this bearish trend to help reset this RSI. Kind of like how during a short-term bullish trend, the RSI sometimes reaches into overbought territories, and we need some time during the bullish trend to actually reset and cool off. We're basically at that time period right there, but in the opposite trend. Obviously, we're in a short-term bearish trend once again, in instead of a short-term bullish trend. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this right here is the daily ETH to US dollar chart. And like I said in my last video, we've already confirmed this break to the downside in both the price action, the RSI, and we've also confirmed a bearish cross in the daily Ethereum MACD. And other than that, not much has changed over the last one day for this chart on this time frame. So if you're new to the channel and you want to know more about what's going on here, then check out my last video on this channel. But anyway, zooming into the shorter term, this right here is the 4-hour ETH to US dollar chart. And right now we still have support at around 1150 to 1160 approximately. But if the price of ETH breaks below that level, then I would expect some support at around 1070 to 1080 approximately. And as for resistance, we do have some resistance at around 1220 and also some resistance at around 1280 going up towards around 1320. And once again, like I said in my last video, in terms of the short-term trend, this is obviously a short-term bearish trend forming lower lows and lower highs, for example. But if you're looking at the 4-hour Ethereum RSI, this is getting very close again to oversold territories, which means technically speaking, we have somewhat limited room to the downside in the imminent short term. And we still need to have a little bit more time where the RSI can reset, where we basically see either some choppy sideways price action or a slight bullish relief, basically just an imminent short-term pause within this bearish trend. And so simply based on the fact that the 4-hour Ethereum RSI is extremely close to oversold territories, that is simply the most likely scenario over the next one day or so, basically more neutral price action within this bearish trend. And now if you zoom all the way out to the daily time frame, but not for the ETH to US dollar chart and instead the ETH to Bitcoin chart, we can see that we're actually forming a giant symmetrical triangle pattern right now, which is not necessarily a bullish or a bearish pattern. So we need to actually wait to see a break below support or above resistance in order to actually activate the technical price targets for this pattern. And right now, this support level is sitting at around 0.07 Bitcoin per ETH, and this resistance level is sitting at around 0.0742 Bitcoin per Ethereum. And as for the technical price targets, if the price of ETH confirms a break above that level of resistance that I just mentioned, then that would set up a technical price target at around 0.089 Bitcoin per Ethereum, which would be a gain of around 22%. And remember, this is against Bitcoin, which essentially means if this scenario played out, then Ethereum would outperform Bitcoin by 22%. But on the flip side, if the price of ETH breaks below this key level of support that I just mentioned, then that would set up a technical price target to the downside at around 0.057 Bitcoin per ETH, which would be a drop in the price of ETH against Bitcoin of around 18% approximately. So in this scenario, the price of ETH would basically underperform against Bitcoin. But once again, it is important to mention that one of these technical price targets will only come into play once we actually see either a confirmed break below this support or a confirmed break above this resistance. But whether the price breaks to the upside, to the downside, or simply continues to chop around sideways within this pattern, either way, you can make money in crypto if you watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. Because the video in the top left of your screen shows you how to make money in crypto if the price is going either up or down, and the video in the bottom left of your screen shows you how to make money in crypto if the price is chopping around sideways. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.